alaikum. Welcome to Urdu Seekhiye. I'm your host, Shireen, and this is the second part of our 6-part series dedicated to the nazm Ek Makra or Makhi, which means a spider and a fly. If you didn't listen to part 1, please pause this and start there. The link to part 1 is available in the description. Or you can go directly to www.urduseekhiye.com/E25. That's urduseekhiye.com/E25. Today I have with me the creator of Urdu Dan, Amir. The folks I collaborate with always have some connection to Urdu, and he is no exception. When I first met Amir, he had only an Instagram account where he posted beautiful poetry in Urdu, often written by himself. Now, however, he's grown his presence and has expanded into a podcast and even a YouTube channel. So I'm really happy that Amir has made time for us. Amir, welcome to Urdu Seekhiye. Would you like to say a few words about yourself and your connection to the Urdu language?
Sure. Walaikum assalam. And thanks a lot for that introduction. Speaking of Urdu, I have had this connection with it for as long as I can remember. But to be more specific, at least for the past 10 years, when I started studying Urdu and reading Urdu poetry more seriously, and when I discovered the classical poets like Mirza Ghalib and Mir Taqi Mir, and all the other poets of the Delhi era and post 1857 era, then there are pre-modern poets like Dav Tehelvi, and then modern poetry. For example, John Elia. He's gotten really popular, a little too popular actually. But yeah, apart from that, I am a stickler for good language. So it's not just about Urdu. I'm trying to learn Farsi right now so that I can be a better speaker of Urdu. Because Urdu ultimately is very connected and derived from Farsi in many ways. Professionally, I'm doing my PhD in history, and the subject of my PhD is also language related. It is about this Fort William College in Kolkata that was set up in the year 1800, and a guy called John Gilchrist started working on a seminary on languages, and uh, he made he wrote the first dictionary of the Hindustani language, as he used to call it, Hindi Urdu, which yeah, so he worked on Hindi and Urdu, and so that's about the history part. I'm definitely into languages, and that's one of my fortes, I guess. Yeah, so that's about it.
That was amazing. This is the first time I'm hearing the details of your background, and having learned it, I'm even more excited to have you on. So thank you. Okay, so now we'll begin part 2 of our 6-part series of the nazm Ek Makra or Makhi by Allama Iqbal.
So the first 4 lines of the nazm are: मक्खी ने सुनी बात जो मकड़ी की तो बोली, हजरत किसी नादान को दीजिएगा ये धोखा, इस जाल में मक्खी कभी आने की नहीं है, जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा फिर नहीं उतरा.
Okay, so our first line is Makhi ne suni baat jo makde ki to boli. This is written more or less in everyday language. It means hearing the words of the spider, the fly said. Makhi ne suni baat jo makde ki to boli. Baat, if you remember, we translate it to matter or idea. Here it can even mean words. Jo would be best translated as that. So let's see if we can turn this sentence into one I would say often. Makde ki baat suni, to makhi boli, which means the exact same thing. Hearing the words of the spider, the fly said. Here's another everyday example. I could say, Amir ki baat suni, to main boli. Amir ki baat suni, to main boli, which means hearing Amir's words, I said. How would I say, hearing her mother's words, she said? Remember, when we have possessive nouns like mothers, it's the words of the mother. We need ki. And we know her and his is us. So it will be uski ammi ki baat suni to wo boli. Uski ammi ki baat suni to wo boli. Hearing her mother's words, she said. And it would also be okay if we remove wo. So we can say, Uski ammi ki baat suni to boli. The wo is implied. For the next two questions, please go to our website and write your answer in the discussion section for this episode. So the questions are, how would you say, hearing the words of her husband, she said? And then, how would you say, hearing the words of his sister, he said? Remember, gender does make a difference. I'll be sure to link to the page for this episode in our description, so be sure to go there and answer these questions.
Great, that was a really nice explanation.
Thank you.
Then we have the fly's response. She says, Hazrat kisi nadan ko dijega ye dhoka. Hazrat kisi nadan ko dijega ye dhoka. Let's start with the word nadan. A person who is nadan is naive. Kisi can be used to talk about someone or something. Because kisi is followed by nadan, we know it means someone. So kisi nadan means someone naive. Hazrat kisi nadan ko dijega ye dhoka. Also, I'd like to add that the word nadan here is emphasized. Hazrat kisi nadan ko dijega ye dhoka.
Right, I was trying to think about a sentence in English that we use where that emphasis is placed on a word. For example, in the sentence, why don't you pick on someone your own size? So you hear that emphasis on own. Nadan here is emphasized in that same way.
Exactly. Moving on, dijiye, if you remember from episode 19, is one of our irregular imperatives. So the infinitive verb is dena, which means to give. And for the pronoun aap, we say dijiye. For regular verbs, the ending is ea. But for irregular verbs like dena, lena, and karna, it's eja. So they would be dijiye, lijiye, and kijiye. So the fly is saying, किसी नादान को दीजिएगा ये धोखा, with the emphasis on nadan.
और धोखा का क्या मतलब है? So going forward, I'm going to try to insert short sentences or questions in Urdu so you can hear them again and again and become more used to them. और धोखा का क्या मतलब है means, and what does dhoka mean?
The word dhoka is usually paired with the verb dena. Dhoka dena. Dhoka dena is basically to break someone's trust. And you likely break someone's trust by lying or cheating. For example, you might say, उसने मुझे धोखा दिया. उसने मुझे धोखा दिया. Basically, you'd be saying he or she wronged me in some way. Dhoka, the noun, like nazar ka dhoka, means an illusion, something that tricks you. Dhoka as a noun means an illusion or a trick, but dhoka dena together is our complex verb, meaning to cheat.
Okay, so returning to our nazm, Amir, Hazrat ka kya matlab hai? And is Hazrat used to show respect? I get the feeling that it's only used towards men.
Ah, Hazrat. Hazrat now is mostly used for if you refer to someone who is really revered and respected, like Sufi saints, for example. So you might say Hazrat Rabia Basri or Hazrat Muin Chishti. That is one way that I have often heard it being used. But there is also an informal way of saying it. I might say, कहाँ रह गए थे हजरत? कहाँ रह गए थे हजरत? So the way this is being used here, it has a tone of sarcasm in it. कहाँ रह गए थे हजरत means, where had you been stalled? Basically, where were you?
Ah, I see. Yes, so sometimes when my mom asks me to do something, for example, give her a glass of water, and then she follows it up with another request, maybe to heat it up before giving it to her, I might say, anything else, Your Majesty? So that's exactly how Hazrat in that sentence is being used sarcastically, right?
Right, exactly, exactly.
And it would just be used for men, right? Not women.
Hmm. Well, earlier I did say Hazrat Rabia Basri.
Yeah, I heard that, but quite often I hear names that I am sure that they belong to women, but they end up being a man's name. So, okay, women can be addressed with Hazrat as well if they are extremely revered or respected.
Yeah, I suppose so. But then if I contrast it with the Khawateen or Hazrat, in that phrase, Hazrat is the plural of Hazrat, and Khawateen is the plural of Khatun, which means woman. So Khawateen or Hazrat means ladies and gentlemen. So in that case, Hazrat or Hazrat does mean gentleman or gentleman. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, learned something new right there. So, as with many things, context makes a difference. Okay, so then we have इस जाल में मक्खी कभी आने की नहीं है. इस जाल में means in this trap. Jal means trap. Kabhi aane ki nahi hai means will never be coming or will never come. And who will never come? The makhi, the fly. So here I'm a little confused as to whether this makhi is referring to herself or himself. I like to think that it's a her, only because the narrator in the video I watched was a young girl. So I don't know if she's referring to herself in the third person or whether she means to say all flies, as in, no fly is going to fall for this trap. If she's referring to herself in the third person, then इस जाल में मक्खी कभी आने की नहीं है means in this trap I will never be coming. But maybe she means all flies. इस जाल में मक्खी कभी आने की नहीं है. In this trap, flies will never be coming. Amir, do you have any thoughts on whether she's speaking up for herself only or for all of her kind? आपका क्या ख्याल है?
जी, मेरा ये ख्याल है that that's a very interesting question. So my thoughts on this would be, if I could think of a parallel example, it would be, please excuse my selection of this example, it just struck me.
No worries.
But we've heard this example, men don't cry, okay, for example. So that would mean that real men don't cry. That real is implied. So when she says, इस जाल में मक्खी कभी आने की नहीं है, she could simply be saying that not just about herself, but in another sense, she could mean real flies that are worth their salt, flies that are intelligent and smart. They don't fall for such traps. So yes, I think that's what it means.
Ha, that was awesome. I love it when the right examples become available to you just when you need them. So that was well explained.
Another point that I want to add is that jal means net. And of course, nets are often used to trap animals and even people. So the word jal or even jala sometimes is a net. And in this nazm, it means a trap. So next we have जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा फिर नहीं उतरा. जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा फिर नहीं उतरा. Jo here, as we discussed before, is a relative pronoun and it means who. Aapki means yours. Seedhi means ladders or a ladder or stairs. Seedhi pe chढ़ना means to climb the stairs or ladder. जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा means the one who climbed your stairs. फिर नहीं उतरा. फिर नहीं उतरा means then didn't come down. So you can guess what she means. The one who climbed your ladder didn't come down. To change this slightly, if I want to say the one who climbed up your ladder never came down, how would I say that? जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा फिर कभी नहीं उतरा. जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा फिर कभी नहीं उतरा. This word kabhi with the word nahi together means never. कभी नहीं, never. जो आपकी सीढ़ी पे चढ़ा फिर कभी नहीं उतरा. The one who climbed up your ladder never came down.
Yes, so here she recognizes that it's dangerous to step foot in his home. She recognizes that it's a one way path, there is no exit. Okay, so let's look at the next four lines.
So the next four lines are मकड़े ने कहा वाह फरेबी मुझे समझे. मकड़े ने कहा वाह फरेबी मुझे समझे. तुम सा कोई नादान जमाने में न होगा. तुम सा कोई नादान जमाने में न होगा. मंजूर तुम्हारी मुझे खातिर थी वगरना. मंजूर तुम्हारी मुझे खातिर थी वगरना. कुछ फायदा अपना तो मेरा इसमें नहीं था. कुछ फायदा अपना तो मेरा इसमें नहीं था. So, मकड़े ने कहा means the spider said. Wah. Wah is an expression we use in Urdu. If you've heard any poetry recited, often the poet will recite a verse and someone from the audience might say, Wah, Wah, kya baat hai? It's not important what the phrase literally means, but people often say, Kya baat hai when they're impressed with something. So, Wah is often paired with that phrase.
Actually, recently I was on your Instagram page, and I think I heard you were among a crowd or something and you were reciting poetry. And that's exactly what happened. Somebody in the audience yelled, Va. So I'll be sure to link to that so you guys can get an understanding of exactly what I'm talking about there. But getting back to our Va, Va here is a bit different. Here, Va is expressing disbelief. You could also use va in that way. Like in English, I might say, wow, you're blaming me? So in Urdu, that could translate to va, tum mujh pe ilzam laga rahe ho? Wow, you're putting the blame on me? So that's the va here. Like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
वाह फरेबी मुझे समझे. Farebi best translates to someone who gives the dhoka. So it actually the fareb is the actual word. So someone who gives fareb is farebi, and fareb is also another. It's synonymous to dhoka. So it's a cheater basically. A cheater or a dishonest person is a farebi.
I see, okay. And mujhe is the oblique form of me. You'll find that in the handout for episode 18. And samajna means to understand or to think. So with va, farebi mujhe samjhe, the spider's trying to turn it around on the fly. He's like, wow, you think I'm a cheater?
Right. And he continues in this vein. He says, तुमसा कोई नादान जमाने में न होगा. तुमसा कोई नादान जमाने में न होगा. So tumsa means like you, but in everyday Urdu you'd say तुम्हारे जैसा, like you. तुम्हारे जैसा is in the neutral or informal case. The formal case is आप. So with आप we'd say आप जैसा. So तुमसा कोई नादान जमाने में न होगा. That means there wouldn't be anyone as nadan or as naive as you in the entire world. Zamana here means the world. The more common way to say world is often dunya.
So you're reading it as zamana, but in the line it's zamane. So I don't, is that just the plural? Or why is it zamane?
Oh, when there's a word like, for example, any word that ends with an alif,
Mm-hmm.
zamana, khana. So individually it's khana. मगर अगर आप किसी को when it's linked with another sentence, this is kind of an irregular thing. I don't know if there's an actual rule for this, but this is how it's colloquially said. अगर आप कहेंगे आप घर खाने पे आना, ऐसे ही सुना होगा आपने।
हाँ,
ऐसे नहीं बोलते आप घर खाना खाना पे आना।
नहीं नहीं।
तो खाना जो होता है, ये एनी वर्ड दैट एंड्स विद एन अलिफ, व्हेन इट्स कंबाइंड और व्हेन इट्स पुट इन अ सेंटेंस, तो यूजुअली वो आ जो है वो ए कर दिया जाता है। दैट्स हाउ इट्स सेड, बल्कि लिखा भी ऐसे ही जाता है जी।
Okay, so while editing this episode, I thought, why not look up whether a rule exists for such nouns whose endings change from a to a, as in zamana. Zamana became zamane. It's very simple, actually, and we've already discussed it several times, especially in episode 18. So, nouns that are masculine, singular masculine nouns that end with the a ending, so that's with the letter aleph or choti he. The ending of such a noun has to change to a if it is followed by a postposition. And that a ending is the oblique case of that noun. So let me quickly give some examples. So I might say, ye ladka mera bhai hai. That means, this boy is my brother. We have the noun ladka, and since there's no postposition after it, it remains as ladka. But if I say, ye ladke ke paas meri kitab hai, my book is with this boy. Or more naturally, the boy has my book. We can't say, ye ladka ke paas meri kitab hai, because of the postposition ke. So, ladka in this case becomes ladke. Please note, in this sentence, ladke is singular. So going back to zamana and zamane, zamana becomes zamane because of the postposition me. Zamane me. Okay, so now let's look at the next sentence. Right, so tumsa koi nadan zamane mein na hoga is connected to the previous line. Va, farebi mujhe samjhe. So together it would be Va, farebi mujhe samjhe. Tumsa koi nadan zamane mein na hoga. So he's trying to say, wow, you think I'm going to deceive you? There couldn't exist a more naive person than you in this world. He's basically using reverse psychology to get his way.
Yeah, precisely. Next we have मंजूर तुम्हारी मुझे खातिर थी वगरना। मंजूर तुम्हारी मुझे खातिर थी वगरना।
Yeah, I find this line to be the most difficult line in this poem so far. How would you say this line in everyday Urdu?
Let's start with the word khatir. Khatir technically means the heart, but along the same lines, it also means to care for. The word vagarna, I've only seen it used in poetry. The way you would use this word in everyday conversation would be varna. So feel free to read vagarna as varna, which basically means otherwise. Manzoor is obviously acceptable thi mujhe. So that was like, that's what I wanted. That's just another way of saying it. This is what I wanted. So I wanted your khatir, otherwise, in this way. And khatir is this thing that means, I wanted to care for you. I wanted, for example, khatir ko hum I hospitality के sense में translate कर सकते हैं, I suppose. कि I only wanted hospitality. Obviously, that's not how you would say it in English, but yeah, that is how it would translate. I only wanted your hospitality, or to care for you. Otherwise, that is how I would see it. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so it kind of feels incomplete. Otherwise, what? So maybe
Otherwise,
it
yeah,
connects to the next
to the next
line.
line. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So basically, here he's saying, I'm only looking out for you. I'm only thinking of you. Yeah?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is the last line to which, the previous line is connected. So our last line is, कुछ फायदा अपना तो मेरा इसमें नहीं था. कुछ फायदा अपना तो मेरा इसमें नहीं था. So before we dive into the meaning of this sentence, my question to you, Amir, is I don't understand why it's in the past tense. So you see how it's ta and not he? आपका क्या ख्याल है?
Because the first line, the line preceding this, is also in the past tense because it's Manzoor तुम्हारी मुझे खातिर थी वरगरना. So the next line will automatically be in the past tense, right?
Yeah, I guess then my question would be, then why are they both in the past though? Why are they not in the...
Because he's talking about, if you go back and look at the four lines together, it reads like Makde ne kaha wah farebi mujhe samjhe. Now this is in the present. Then he continues, tumsa koi nadan zamane mein na hoga.
Right.
That's not exactly in the present. Then मंजूर तुम्हारी मुझे खातिर थी वगरना. किस चीज में खातिर थी? तुम्हें इनवाइट करने में. And that invitation has happened in the past.
Oh, I see. Okay. It happened in the
So
past,
in the
meaning,
invitation,
in the first four lines, meaning in like 10 minutes ago, maybe. Yeah?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Recent
in
past.
the
Yeah.
recent past, yeah.
I see. Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's get back to this line. So, faida means benefit. Kuch faida is some benefit. Apna kuch faida is how you will normally see it used. And apna kuch faida means some benefit to myself. Apna means myself. So, kuch faida apna to mera isme nahi tha means there was no benefit to myself in this. He means to say, in anything that he's suggested so far, and what he's about to suggest, there's nothing anyone can see that would benefit him. And when we examine the remaining lines, we see him listing out the ways in which he was only thinking of the fly. What a selfless little spider.
Indeed.
And that does it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Be sure to go to our website, www.urdusikhiye.com/e25 to download the handout for this episode. www.urdusikhiye.com/e25. You can find that link in the description. This episode was full of lots of new vocabulary words, so you'll definitely want to download it. I want to thank Amer for lending his expertise to Urdu Sikhiye. Please be sure to check out Urdu Dan on Instagram and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe so you know exactly when we release part 3 of this 6-part series of the Nazm Ek Makra or Makhi. Until next time.
आप सब अपना बहुत बहुत ख्याल रखिए.
Bye.